Here we go.
Now, Chris Duel.
It is Taco Tuesday, November 16th. We are now in the second half of November officially. You are now closer to December than you are to October. Welcome in, Chris Duel Show with Shannon, Salty, Sweeney. So much going on in the world of sports. Beat down last night on Monday Night Football. And if you would have told me that going into the Monday Night Football game, I go, yeah, Rams are going to beat down the 49ers. Other way around. We'll get into that. NBA, college basketball, NFL, college football, Texas Longhorns, UTSA Roadrunners. We got it all going on. Shannon, Salty, Sweeney, how are you this morning?
A lot better than those LA Rams you just referenced. I mean, brand new look, two new seemingly great additions by name, but by play, not so much last night.
31-10, 49ers over the Rams. And again, we love any outcome that helps the Dallas Cowboys.
Yes,
and
yes, we do.
That certainly helps the Dallas Cowboys in the NFC standings. And we will take it and onward and upward. But yeah, Matthew Stafford just, not playing well last night. The Rams in general, the 49ers just took it to them. And I did not see that coming. The Rams, but yet the last couple of weeks now, Shannon, dating back to that Bronco win over the Cowboys and that Jaguars win over the Bills, there have been some upsets and some weird scores in the NFL you just wouldn't suspect. And I guess maybe we add that to this one, or maybe do we think the Rams are not as good as we thought they were?
I don't know. I mean, you mentioned the Bills and the Cowboys games from just over a week ago where they both had shocking losses, but they flipped the script and turned it right back around. And particularly both quarterbacks came out and shined through. Matthew Stafford, similar week when they faced the Titans, had 2 interceptions, and you think, oh, that's, he's got an off game, whatever. But he throws 2 picks very early, I believe the first drive. And then again, later down the line, and it turns into a pick 6. And one of those picks came when he attempted to hit OBJ. Some miscommunication results in a pick. I don't know if you blame Stafford or OBJ for that, but they're just not together in the way that I think we expected them to be with the way they started the season. So I'm ready for the think pieces for sure. If this is a McVay thing, if it's just, this Matthew Stafford has always been this guy, doesn't matter what team he's on. But like you said, ultimately it's best for the Dallas Cowboys to see the Rams go down, given their, I haven't seen the movement now, because I know last week the playoff picture would have been Cowboys v. Rams.
Yes.
Curious as to how that adjusts now with the Cowboys getting a win this past weekend and the Rams losing last night.
Yeah, and it may still be the same because currently in the NFC West, the Rams are second to the Arizona Cardinals. But what we like is, the Rams now have a 3rd loss. Cowboys sitting with 2 losses. So your 2-loss teams in the NFC now are Arizona Cardinals 8-2, the Green Bay Packers 8-2, and the Dallas Cowboys 7-2, because you now have 3 losses for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which is what we need, because you can't finish in a tie with Tampa Bay because they have the head-to-head from opening day against Dallas. So the only X factor that's concerning me now, Green Bay Packers, they granted, Russell Wilson on Sunday coming off the injury, his hand, his finger, his thumb not working the way it really should. So I don't know how much stock we put into that, but for the Packers to win ugly, and hopefully Coach Jeff Traylor will allow me to say that, for the Packers to win ugly against a decent Seattle Seahawks team and to go to 8-2. See, the Cowboys have a head-to-head game against the Cardinals, so they control their own destiny against the Cardinals. The Packers are the team we just have to keep an eye on and hope that they get a loss or two somewhere down the stretch.
Yeah, I agree. And like that Packers Seahawks game, it wasn't, I didn't find it to be entertaining. It was quite boring. I don't think it was the storyline that we had intended, especially when the Seahawks don't put up anything. But ultimately, with the Packers getting that win, it does, move them forward. And I'm looking at their schedule now. They take on the Vikings this weekend, and then they'll move on to face the Rams, their very own. So that could have some implications. But where it stands now, it seems like the Packers could be rolling for a while.
Yes. And of course, with all of that happening, it is kind of interesting how the NFL kind of corrects itself. The Arizona Cardinals went on that run, and granted, Kyler Murray's been out, so maybe you can attribute it to that. But for Arizona was out there as the only undefeated team for several weeks. I think they've lost 2 of their last 3. Now they're now 8-2. And one of the other big stories in the NFL, Shannon, has been the Kansas City Chiefs floundering. And now all of a sudden, especially the way they exploded on the Raiders on Sunday night, now they're 6-4. They're alone in first place in the AFC West. Just a few weeks ago, they were alone in last place in the AFC West. And the Chiefs have now won 3 in a row. And again, Shannon, it is a showdown. And when we look at the body of the entire 2021 NFL regular season, the game coming up at Arrowhead Stadium, 3:25 on Sunday afternoon, Cowboys at the Kansas City Chiefs, both of them coming off of monster wins and monster offensive explosions. And in the Cowboys' case, an incredible defensive effort, and maybe the best defensive week of the year for the Dallas Cowboys. That may well be the game. We looked at Dallas at Tampa Bay on opening day going, wow, that could be the game of the year. Dallas at Kansas City now could be the game of the year. And again, Kansas City, I know the Buffalo Bills are your second favorite team, and your AFC team, Mitch Morse, the center, a friend of yours. But if you still believe the Chiefs are the team to beat in the Super Bowl, Cowboys Chiefs on Sunday, if you're crazy enough to believe the Cowboys could get there, could be a Super Bowl preview.
Yeah. And I'm looking at the line now. Currently, Chiefs favored by 2. And a year ago, I would never think these words would ever come out of my mouth. But when you have these 2 high-powered offenses facing each other, the question is, okay, who's got the better defense? And I think it's the Cowboys. And I've got to put my confidence in the Cowboys this weekend when it does come to that Kansas City Chiefs matchup. I mean, that's always, for the past few years, kind of been their glaring spot. And I think it's still very much available for the Cowboys to be picking all over them this coming weekend. So I don't know about that line. I think I'd take the Cowboys right now at -2.
Well, and again, you said +2, excuse me. You said if you'd have heard that at the beginning of the season, the Cowboys god awful defense. Yeah. Well, and the fact that it's a 2-point spread, a 2-point line, as we know, home field equals 3 points typically among odds makers in the NFL. So what they're saying is, on a neutral field, the Cowboys are a point better than the Kansas City Chiefs. Going into this season, if you would have said Dallas at Kansas City at Arrowhead, I would have thought 5.5.
Do we travel? Do we go?
Wow. That's kind of crazy. Something else that we'll talk about a little bit. Shaka Smart. Last night, Marquette, Shaka Smart's new team, upsets the number 10 team in the country, Illinois. Shaka saying, hey, man, remember me? I'm here. I'm the Marquette coach now. 67-66. Must have been a buzzer beater or a nail biter.
He did that kind of stuff at Texas. I think they had a winning record against UNC. I mean, teams that he was winning games he wasn't ever supposed to win, and then the easy ones were just Abilene Christian, just out the window. So okay, I see you, Shaka.
He's out there. And something else, when we get into the NBA, I did hear last night, you may know, first of all, your Dallas Mavericks win again.
Yes.
Who they beat, the Nuggets last night? It was somebody, I think it was the Nuggets. But I did hear Luka, who has had ankle injuries, leaves the court with some kind of a left ankle injury. At the moment, they're saying he twisted it. So, it was the Nuggets. That was up in Dallas, 111-101. And that puts the Mavericks, ahead of the Nuggets in the Western Conference, 9-4 to 9-5. So it's a pretty big early season win for them.
Yeah. I'd rather get our wins earlier than have it come down to those last couple games in the season. So I'm happy with where we are right now.
All right, we got so much to talk about. NFL, college football, college basketball, NBA, and more. And don't forget the college football playoff rankings will come out tonight. But it is 6:20 right now. We do this all day into the night on the 20s. Somebody wins $1,000 every single hour. It should be you. It could be you if you get this keyword and text it where we tell you to text it. It's the Grand in Your Hand cash contest. Here it is.
Now, your chance to win $1,000. Text the nationwide keyword WIN to 200-200. You'll get a confirmation text and info. Standard data and message rates apply in this nationwide contest. That's WIN to 200-200.
Win, and we hope you win, and somebody's gonna win, and somebody wins $1,000 every hour. So we hope it's you. Another NBA issue I just want to bring up, Shannon, and we're talking about guys moving on to maybe greener pastures. Shaka Smart moving on from Texas to Marquette, getting a big win last night, upsetting number 10 Illinois 67-66. Last night at Staples Center in Los Angeles, the Chicago Bulls beat the Los Angeles Lakers 121-103 and exploding for 38 points last night and 6 assists. DeMar DeRozan. Where was his 38 point performances when he was a Spur? And people are asking him, because some people are saying, and I know it's crazy early, we're 14 games into the season. Bulls are 10-4 right now. Some people are saying, ooh, DeMar DeRozan could be an MVP candidate. And he said he got motivated. He was feeling dissed because people were saying he was washed up. Where was your motivation to go play like this when you were in San Antonio?
Right, the All-Star snub. The snub wasn't enough from the All-Star. And also there were all these think pieces, right? When the trade was made and everyone, well, who got the best trade? Who got the who was the best sign in free agency? And everyone thought he was the worst. Yeah. That he was washed up, that he would not be a contributor in the way that he could have been. I kind of feel bad for the Spurs that they didn't get that. I mean, he was good. He was fine.
Yeah.
He was still the star of the team.
He was eyed.
But what he's doing right now in Chicago is special. And then just to kind of pour salt in the wound, he's like, I love it here. This is the best situation ever. And you're like, okay, well, we didn't need that added on. But thank you.
And I like DeMar DeRozan. I'm happy for DeMar DeRozan.
He doesn't mean anything by it. He's not trying to personally.
No, but it's hard. It's kind of hard now. It's like when you have an ex and the ex is saying, "Oh, I love this relationship so much."
And you're still struggling
for me
to find your way.
And you're like out there on the street, But given what the Spurs knew of him, and again, I'm very happy for him. And if you know his history, coming out of Compton, California, tough place to grow up, and he has been very public about his bouts with depression and what happened to him in Toronto. I mean, for a kid from Compton to fall in love with Toronto in Canada and want to spend the rest of his career there, and then like 3 days before they did the Kawhi Leonard trade, he asks Masai Ujiri, the general manager of the Raptors, am I good? Oh yeah, you're good. We love you. Absolutely. You're not going anywhere. Liar. So I'm happy for it. He's a good man and a great player. So I'm happy about that. And I do realize it was time for the Spurs to move on from him and move on from Rudy Gay and Patty Mills and even LaMarcus Aldridge, who left before last year ended and went to the Brooklyn Nets before having some health problems, and now he's back. So it was time for the youth movement in San Antonio. But man, DeMar DeRozan, you gotta keep an eye on him the rest of the season, see if he can keep this up.
Do you credit any of his success to having a guy like Lonzo Ball as part of that team?
They've got Lonzo Ball. He's very good. They got Zach LaVine. They've got a lot of parts. So maybe that is it. Because, a lot of times last year, in the last few years, DeMar DeRozan was looked upon to be the man and especially the closer for the Spurs.
And you can only work with what you got.
Yeah.
And sometimes it wasn't enough.
And part of it, as I watched a lot of Spurs games the last few years with DeMar DeRozan, and he had this reputation in Toronto as well. In crunch time, it was almost kind of a Tony Romo thing. I mean, he won some games for us at the buzzer, but he would also sometimes miss the key shot or miss the key free throw that you needed to make both free throws in the final minute of play to stay in it or to win it. But again, God bless him, and I hope it goes well. And, he beat the Lakers, so that's always enjoyable. And on that very floor, wow, and you got to think about it, the Spurs are in town because the Spurs played the Lakers on Sunday.
Yes.
So yesterday was an off day for the Spurs. They play the Clippers tonight. So with DeMar and the Bulls in town, I would imagine a number of those Spurs, DeJounte Murray, probably a number of those Spurs who were DeMar's teammates and I'm sure are his friends, were probably at that game at Staples Center last night.
Yes. And how are you feeling about tonight, sir? Because obviously it's Kawhi's team, but Kawhi not available, still rehabbing.
Spurs need a win. Spurs are 4-9. There've been a lot of close games. Yeah, and again, as you know, but this is the year, Shannon. I've still got 14 games in. I've got like 68 games. This is the year I'm gonna get beyond the whole Kawhi thing.
It should be easier that he's not playing, I would think.
Yes, it is a bit. I mean, if he played tonight and if the Clippers won, I'd be a little sleepless tonight. All right, coming up, the high five play of the day. We got so much to cover. Rex Ryan, the former Jets coach, goes off on current Jets coach Robert Saleh. We'll get into that. I want to get into the Deebo Samuel touchdown celebration, which was he's a prop comic, apparently. We'll get into that. Shannon Salty Shakedown coming up in the 7:00 hour. Sports history, sports birthdays. Lots of going on in the world of the Texas Longhorns. Taylor Estes, the managing editor of Horns 24/7, just after 8:00. The boss man, Brian Gann, kind enough to multitask and make the show go this morning. She's Shannon Salty Sweeney. Thanks for hanging out with us till 9 on the Chris Duel Show. Wow, Tracy, I didn't see that. I'll have to go check that. Tracy says Carlos Correa removes all mention of the Houston Astros from his Twitter bio. See, Beth Settle, welcome in. Good morning. Hector Gomez, Ralph Balderas, Luisa Alanis, Lucinda Sullivan with the coffee emoji. Robert Browning, good morning from Japan. Buenos dias, Jason Paniagua. Anthony Del Toro. Anthony, we may get a Packer-Cowboy matchup. And like my Spurs Dia de los Muertos shirt, thank you. I need to look for... Jason, will the Horns make a bowl game? At the moment, Jason, they got to win their final two. And I know the next one's at West Virginia. Never easy to play there. I mean, given... Yeah, I've been wrong about the Longhorns like every single week. I've been, ever since the Oklahoma game, I've been picking them to win. So what do I know? But getting my coffee. But at the moment, I'm sure not feeling a win at West Virginia. And again, my saying that is probably good for the Longhorns because I've been nothing but wrong about the Longhorns. Louisa, I have not heard the Gary Patterson rumors. What are they? Certainly Texas wouldn't want him. And I think certainly I don't think Sark is in any kind of hot water. I don't know if that's what you're alluding to. Ralph, I got this shirt on Amazon. I go looking I go searching Spurs shirts on Amazon because I like to get shirts that are not normal, that not a lot of people have or that I haven't seen before. So I got it on Amazon. Okay, let me see. I want to find, if I can, that Rex Ryan audio. Let's see here. Rex Ryan. Okay. Oh, there it is. Okay, but
tied for the worst in the history of the National Football League since the Super Bowl era. So congratulations. There's no passion. There's no nothing. You saw a team that knows what the hell they're doing, the coaching staff, with the rookie.
That's not it. Okay, why can't I hear that?
A lot like myself, but without the bad part. This guy's supposed to be a defensive guru. I heard everything. I think it hurt on this one. Everything I heard about was, well, this guy's a lot like myself, but without the bad part. Yeah, well, some of the bad part you need. This team doesn't play with any damn heart. I mean, that's the thing that's disappointing to me. And don't ever compare this guy to me, this Robert Saleh to me, because statistically, one time they were like a top defense. All right, here's one thing they're going to be familiar with. 4 out of 5 years, the 49ers were dead last in their division. So he's going to be dead last again. So he's used to that. So to me, I'm a little pissed off about it when I hear that this guy, his background's a lot like yours. No, it isn't. No, it isn't.
Jets head coach Robert Saleh, your thoughts on what Rex said?
Honestly, you know what? I've never met Rex. I've never had a conversation with Rex. I don't even know him except for people who know him throughout the league. So obviously, if it's that personal for him, he knows where to find me. So,
were you surprised that he said it?
I'm not surprised by him. He's always got something to say.
There it is. Brian, I just sent you, and we won't do it till after 7 o'clock. I just sent you the Twitter clip with the Rex Ryan, Robert Saleh audio. All right. Thank you, Tracy Bogert. You sent me the link on that Carlos Correa thing. I appreciate that. You get the producer credit. You get a producer credit for today's show. Maybe but certainly a. There is as I think I mentioned, a West Coast Spurs game tonight, which means I probably won't get home till like 1 a.m. tonight, and the alarm rings at 3, although I can stretch it to 3:30. So if I'm really tired tomorrow and cranky, like Zach Greinke, that will be why. see. Now, yeah, Anthony, we've got that Jimbo Fisher audio. We'll get to that as well. So, Louisa, the Gary Patterson rumor is defensive coordinator. Am I reading that correctly? DC coach, I'm assuming defensive coordinator. Wow. That would be interesting. Here we go.
Back to the Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney.
Welcome back in on a Taco Tuesday. So much going on in the world of sports. A lot of angst out there as well among people who are personalities in the world of sports. Lots to get to this morning. It's the Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney. You are invited to join us at any time. You want to sound off on what we're talking about in the world of sports, or if you want to bring something to the table, you are welcome. 800-707-9760 is the phone number. Don't forget, you can also join us on the live video feed. We are streaming live video across a number of platforms, both AM 1300 The Zone and Ticket 760's Facebook pages, Twitter pages. There is a Ticket 760 YouTube page. You can find us there with live video as well. And what's kind of cool about all that is you're not only interacting with us live and in real time, but other listeners across the great state of Texas and around the world joining us there. So you're welcome to do that. 20 after every hour throughout this show and all day long up until 9:20 tonight. The Grand in Your Hand cash contest. Coming up just after 8 o'clock, we'll dive deep into the world of the Texas Longhorns with Taylor Estes, managing editor of Horns 24/7. So lots. Speaking of horns, and I guess we'll get into this with Taylor. Shannon, before we go to the high five play of the day, I notice Luisa Alanis, who joins us most mornings. We love having Luisa on board on the live video feed. She said there are Gary Patterson rumors out there that he was in Austin yesterday, and he may be the next defensive coordinator of the Texas Longhorns. Have you heard those rumors yet?
I have not. I really haven't heard any rumors yet as far as any coaching changes occurring. I don't know how I don't feel like he's all of a sudden going to leave TCU and then step into a OC or DC position somewhere else. The way he left was a little odd.
Yeah.
I know he's a musician, just like our friend Mr. Bill Schoening, and he loves to record music, and so it doesn't surprise me that he'd be in town. Maybe he was busking somewhere. I don't know. Maybe he was trying to find a stage that he could hop up on. But it's an interesting theory for sure,
Maybe
and I'm sure people will run with it.
Maybe he's going to put a band together with Bill Schoening. Like,
I mean, I've asked Bill that question before of like, have you ever jammed together? I think it would be a good fit. I think it would be fun. And he said no. So we're going to make it happen.
But yeah, now Gary Patterson's got more time on his hands. So who knows?
Big meet up.
It's possible. All right. It is time for the high five play of the day. We do this every morning at this time. Lots of people out there across the world of sports who are deserving of a high five. So we hand them out. Or we high five them out. High five play of the day is appropriately sponsored by High Five, 2 locations in the Austin area. All kinds of stuff going on at both High Five locations. Great food, great drinks, food specials, drink specials, big screen TVs everywhere so you can watch all of the sports your heart desires, and you can play games. Bowling, laser tag, axe throwing, all sorts of games available to you at High Five. Get into one of the Austin locations. You will be glad you did. Shannon, who are we handing out a high five to this morning?
Chris, we've got another runner. We talked about a very young lady, 105 years old, setting the record for the 100-meter dash on Friday. Now we're going to be talking some distance running because we've got a world record breaker on our hands in one Alyssa Clark. Sir, she ran 95 marathons in 95 days, not actual event marathons, but the equal distance of a marathon. Some days on a treadmill when the weather was poor, or even outside. She started doing this during lockdown. She was based in Italy at the time.
Wow.
And, it was just a way for her to get out of the house. I guess she'd been training originally to do some summer marathons. Those were all canceled because of COVID. And even when she made the move to Naples, Florida, in the middle of her 95 days, she still found a way to run 95 marathons in 95 days. And she said she on the 96th day, like she didn't stop at 95. She attempted 96, but she became ill. So she stopped and actually found out that she had COVID. And so that thus ended the streak. But she did set a Guinness World Record with that. I mean, we talked, I don't do the running thing.
Yeah.
I like to be active. But I like to do it in playing something. I don't get the joys of running that other people do. Just not my thing. But congrats to her. A high five to her. But Chris, I do have one question because I thought to do world records and to be verified as a world record holder, winner, whatever you want to call it, that there had to be someone from the world record books higher ups there to watch
documentation
and document. It seems like she just started this and then just kept going because nobody at that time knew March 2020 how long this was going to last.
Right.
But nonetheless, she's got the world record. You'll find her name, Alyssa Clark, in next year's edition, I guess, for 95 marathons. And that sounds insane to me.
It's insane and almost
like,
there's so many things that can go wrong. There's so many leg injuries.
Right.
Or calf strains or hamstring. I mean, there's so many things that can go wrong in running 26.2 miles a day for 95 straight days. That's crazy.
Because you see the people who train to do the big time marathons, and then afterwards they're jelly for a couple days, and they've got to go do physical. How is this possible?
I don't know. And you bring up a great point, and I'd love to know the answer, is how did she verify this so that it could be a Guinness World Record? Because
I could go out here and say, well, I did it in 96 days. I actually finished that 96th day.
Oh, yeah, I've been on my treadmill every morning. Yeah. Didn't you know? Yeah.
Obviously. But good for her.
Good for her.
She did a lot more than what I much like a lot of people, just the COVID weight. That's what I did. I sat on my couch and watched the awful shows like Tiger King and ate and was like, this will be over in 2 weeks. Then I'll get back on my ish. But nope, didn't do it. Well, she's out there running marathons every day.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the story. There's a story about her United Press International, the UPI site, and they don't. I'm surprised. This isn't great journalism. They don't have her age, but they have a photo of her.
She looks pretty young.
Yeah, she looks like late 20s, early 30s. So I mean, she's probably in her prime as a runner.
She looks like a hiker in this photo.
Yeah, she's up on a mountaintop or something. Looks like she's hiking. So my goodness. What a crazy story that is. And again, kudos to her as well, not only for an insanely amazing feat of 95 equivalent to marathons in 95 days, but just to, as you mentioned, Shannon, during the whole COVID lockdown, to have done something athletic and healthy and productive.
Yeah.
So pretty good for her.
I was like, I can take a walk maybe.
Yeah.
I'll think about it.
Very, very nice. So high five for so never you've never run like a 10K or any race like that just for the heck of it?
No. On Saturday, as I'm downing pizza with my friend, emotionally eating at that point because Kansas, she was like, "Oh, I'm doing the turkey trot next week, or Thanksgiving's coming up." I was like, "That's fantastic." She says, "You should do it." I said, "No, I shouldn't." What are you talking about? I have to watch the Macy's Day Parade. Priorities.
Yeah.
Pass. Always
if you can find a fun, there's a race. I used to run a lot like in the 80s and early 90s, but there's a race in San Francisco called the Bay to Breakers race. I think it's in May. It's a big deal. It's you run from the Bay to the Breakers. You run across San Francisco, and you finish at Golden Gate Park. And what's fun about it, and they get like 100,000 people. It's a huge race, but everybody wears costumes. So it's San Francisco, California. So the costumes are often very bizarre.
Yeah.
And some people run actually in no costumes and in nothing at all. There were a lot of nude runners. Running in just running shoes, which was interesting. And I mean, not every nude runner, and that's what's weird about nudists and like nude swimmers and not every nude runner do you want to see running nude. Some people should not be out there naked running around. We did see a few of those.
Yeah.
So maybe you need if you ever want to get into it, maybe you need a novelty race, like the Beta Breakers race.
You mentioned that. The only one that I considered, just for like a hot second when I saw the sign, I like to go walk the lake, the 3 mile loop, and they had signs. This was before COVID, but they had signs of a margarita run where
there you go.
You like stop. And I was like, do I have to run in between the margaritas? Can I just
go straight to the margaritas?
But I was like, if anything were to get me there, that might be the one.
That's a very, very good idea. And I'm noticing I do see a lot of ads now. A lot of the runs are like beer runs, like Fleet Feet locally here in the San Antonio area will have a run. But if at the end of the run that you all meet at a pub and all the runners drink beer. So that's kind of a nice motivation.
Did you ever watch The Office?
Occasionally.
And the whole office does like a run, and then Michael Scott is trying to carbo load, but he's eating fettuccine Alfredo. It's gross to think about. It was gross to watch. That's what I feel like doing something heavy like a beer would do to me.
Yeah. All right.
That doesn't end well.
No,
for
not
me
always.
Or those around me.
Yes, that could be an issue. We're noticing, in fact, somebody brought this up. Tracy Bogert brought this up this morning on the live video feed. Carlos Correa on his Twitter account has removed all mentions in his bio on his Twitter of being a Houston Astro. There are no Houston Astros references in his bio.
I'll take you a step further. When he made that change, he originally added a tiger.
Really?
Emoji. And then people obviously started making a fuss, so he quickly changed it back. It was on the other side of the flag that he's got on his Twitter profile.
Well, then that's that, right? I mean, and there are rumors that he will be a Detroit Tiger. So, I mean, what are the odds that unless he's messing with people? He just
loves the animal kingdom and he loves nature.
Maybe he's watching Tiger King like you during the pandemic.
This week, the season 2, he's promoting.
He's going
to be in it. He's one of the celebrities that's going to show up and have his pictures with tigers. Yeah, it is this week. I think it's the 17th. What's that, tomorrow?
Oh my gosh, I didn't know that.
Mark your calendars.
Well, I told you the 3-part Beatles documentary on the Disney Channel drops Thanksgiving weekend.
Your
So
book.
now Tiger King. And so are we to assume, and obviously, if you're a free agent and you might sign with a bunch of teams, certainly, I think taking down your references of being a Houston Astro in the case of Carlos Correa is not necessarily. I mean, it's a negotiation. So part of it, even if you wanted to try to get more money out of the Houston Astros, you would certainly be open to other offers, and you would maybe take your Houston Astro references down off your bio on Twitter.
To me, JJ Watt, when he signed with the Cardinals, remember he had changed his Twitter bio to just, I think he just said 99, and he announced the news himself. He got a photo of himself working. I think he was doing like crunch, some sort of exercise with heavy weights, and he had on an Arizona shirt, and he said, "Breaking news, JJ Watt to the Arizona Cardinals, source me." Right. And I think part of the using Twitter and such is to let those athletes create the narrative themselves and to control the narratives and be the ones to say officially, this is what my decision is before someone else can.
Yeah. And that I remember when JJ Watt did that, and that was kind of cool of him to be the source as opposed to have to hear it anywhere else. And it enabled him, JJ Watt in that case. And it's interesting, same town, Houston, but JJ Watt, obviously such a big part of that community in the aftermath of the hurricane and the flooding, did so much work there, raised so much money, helped so many people. So he was also able to say, not only am I delivering this news that probably a lot of Houston sports fans and Texans fans are not going to be happy with, but he also, as I recall, expressed his love for the city of Houston and their fans and their people.
Yeah. And I think doing it in such a way, getting rid of all the other speculation, takes the agony out of it for the fans that a player might be leaving behind.
Yeah. But man, Houston Astros, Carlos Correa, such a part of this Houston Astros machine. And you just wonder, how much more, obviously, they lost George Springer and yet still able to get back to the World Series. You lose Garrett Cole, Justin Verlander. You've essentially lost him. Word as well. Now Verlander, a free agent. There's word that Justin Verlander, he started off in Detroit. Detroit could have Verlander and Carlos Correa.
Yeah.
They could be Houston Astros North now.
Now, what do we think about this, right? Because that 2017 World Series team is disbanding more and more. And obviously the whole narrative is everybody hates Houston. They're cheaters. Okay, well, what happens if they get both of these guys in Detroit? Are they buying the jerseys? Are they going to wear the jerseys? I bet they are.
Sure they will.
Are they all of a sudden not the guys who were on that team that are you still going to refer to the Astros as cheaters when you have two of the main men from that 2017 World Series on that roster?
It's a huge point. They were, other than Altuve, you look at that 2017 team, and obviously a lot of them, Bregman, a lot of them made noise. But yeah, Verlander and Carlos Correa were huge on that 2017 championship. Oh yeah, the fans will conveniently forget in Detroit or wherever these guys went.
Astros.
Yes.
It wasn't these Astros.
Exactly. I just think fans, they lock on to a story or an idea. And in this case, it's we hate the Houston Astros. They cheated. And even though, the majority of that roster is now gone. Obviously, high-profile guys like Bregman and Jose Altuve and most recently Correa were there. But the majority of those guys are gone, and now it's becoming the majority of the stars of that 2017 Houston Astros team are no longer Houston Astros. Coming up, lots more to talk about. We have us a feud in the National Football League between a former Jets coach and the current Jets coach. We'll get into that and a whole lot more. Salty Shakedown coming at you in the 7 o'clock hour as well. It's the Chris Duel Show. Woo! See, Jason, we went to the restaurant that you recommended. Forgetting the name of it right now. Bitters and 281. And they were very good tacos. John Williams says the Astros need to go back to the National League. Why? Sam Tobias, welcome in. Yes, Sam, it is Taco Tuesday. We can't say that enough. We can't emphasize that enough. Anthony, I don't know that I have a go-to taco because they're all so darn good. I love this is kind of this is not your Los Balitos. Thank you, Jason. That's where we went. The fish tacos at Beto's are pretty darn spectacular. We did not stop at Black Rifle Coffee, but it was right there around the corner. You are correct. I mean, I like Las Palapas tacos. So I mean, and I've almost never met a taco I didn't like. They're all so good. I'm going to heat up my coffee. Yeah, see, I had the camera on a thing that when I would lift the mic, it would control where the camera was. I no longer have that. So if I stand up, I'm out of frame. But you do get to see my Spurs shirt. Woo! Yeah, one of the things I like about this Spurs shirt, obviously the basketballs are the eyes, but there's an Alamo. The chin is the Alamo, which is kind of creative, I thought. Okay. Heating up my coffee. Be right back. Let's get Mike Taylor to sit in until I get back. Back in a sec. Oh, no. Thank you, Mike Taylor. Mike Taylor, 4-7. Wow, Luisa Alanis says a good taco must have a cooked tortilla. A white tortilla is not fully cooked. Anthony Del Toro says Taco Haven on Presa has the best lengua tacos. You know who has really good corn tortillas? And I just sometimes will just at Chewy's, I will sometimes just get the corn tortillas and just dip those in the fresca salsa and go to town. The corn tortilla, they're almost a little sweet, and they're just the texture, the taste. I don't know. I don't know what they do. And don't get me started on the fresca salsa at Chewy's. I think they put crack in it because something is very, very addictive. I'm assuming it's crack. Okay, so I want to make sure I have where the rant began here. Yeah, Sam Tobias, the reason we don't think that all those marathons would be documented, she says she ran them at home. Some of them were run in her home on the treadmill. So they weren't all, legitimate organized marathons. Plugging in my phone. And yes, I do still read the sports page. DeJounte Murray in the new Fiesta getup. That was at the Mavericks game. Shannon was there. It's the only time they've worn that so far. All right, John Williams, I see your thinking there. I would love if Texas, thank you. If it were the way it were back in the day when the Astros were in the National League, to have had an All Texas World Series would have been cool. But not for now, unless one of them moves.
This is the Chris Duel Show. Now, Chris Duel.
On a Taco Tuesday, November 16th, 2021. Welcome in. So much to talk about in the world of sports. It's the Chris Duel Show with Shannon, Salty, Sweeney, her Salty Shakedown this hour, about 30 minutes from now. Also after 7:30, this day in sports history, sports birthdays. Lots going on in the world of the Texas Longhorns, both football and basketball. Coming up just after 8 o'clock, Taylor Estes, the managing editor of Horns 24/7, her thoughts on the Horns' mind-blowing loss to Kansas on Saturday night, and can they win their final two games starting at West Virginia this weekend and become bowl eligible and go play a bowl game and maybe finish this season on a winning note. Want to remind you as well, if you want to jump in here at any time, phone number 800-707-9760, 800-707-9760, 20 on the 20s. So in other words, at 7:20 and all day long until 9:20 p.m., your chance to win $1,000. So about 12 minutes away from another opportunity to win $1,000. So Shannon, Texas Longhorns, and we'll talk more heavily about them in an hour with Taylor Estes, but goal now, win the final two games and go to a bowl game. Can this, if that happened, if they win the final two games at 6-6, not impressive, but go to a bowl game, win it, would that be something that could really, I don't know that you can salvage this season given the expectations, but maybe create some hope for next season?
Yeah, I think some hope and momentum is important. You just mentioned they play West Virginia this weekend. That game very similar to, I guess, the Kansas Cowboys game, and that it is in West Virginia. But Texas currently the underdog here at West Virginia, favored by -2 at the moment. It probably did not help that it was announced yesterday. Bijan Robinson out for the season after a dislocated elbow that he suffered in the game against Kansas on Saturday night. And Josh Thompson, really great guy, the usual return man for Texas, fractured his fibula, and he will also be out the rest of the season, as well as some other injuries that took place over the weekend. So it's going to be a rough go without those guys. So hopefully, that the whole next man up mentality, using this as an opportunity to prove something, and not only prove that you're a great player, but that you can, help this team win, which it so desperately needs to do right now. And I know Sark is really taking on the idea of every position is open right now. You've got to win the job, and prove that you deserve to keep that job week in and week out. It's interesting because I want to get to a bowl game for that momentum, for that opportunity for those kids, especially those seniors. But I also am okay with them shuffling things around and maybe things not going as great to get those wins, just to see where guys fit best and who they may need to move more permanently somewhere else to go into the next season. And I think the narrative is strange of, well, we don't even want a bowl game. Why would we want to go 6-6 and then go to a bowl game? Like, whoop-de-doo.
Because more football is good football.
Right, and you say that now. And then when you're not, and when it's middle of December and you're watching all of these other bowl games and you have no bowl game to look forward to for your team, you're like, well, this is horrible.
Yes.
So
yeah. And these players go to Texas certainly to win national championships, but another reason you go to Texas, you expect to play in a bowl game. I mean, it's expected. You have a winning record, even though you're shooting for a 6-6 now, but then you do go to a bowl game, and it's a part of from that perspective. First of all, Shannon, I believe just the extra game would be good for Sark and this staff and these players to play another game against, obviously it's a bowl game, a very, very good opponent, and see how you can match up and start getting ready for next season. But yeah, I totally agree with you. For these players to not be in a bowl game when so many of their contemporaries at other schools are in bowl games, that would be awful for Texas.
And they're fun for the players. I mean, they are kind of a reward for having what is deemed a successful season, and that you got to a bowl game. It's almost like a mini vacation. They usually get to experience something unique to the location they go to. They obviously get to play in a game for a final time as that specific team. They usually get some gifts that go along with the bowl game. So, and I think for fans too, like, we like to travel. I mean, as great as the Alamo Bowl is as a bowl game,
the Alamo Bowl,
a city, folks in Austin, I think, are like, we want to go somewhere else though, just for a little bit, because I go to San Antonio almost every weekend and it's great, but I'd like to go somewhere. I'd like to California. I'd like a Florida, I want to go on vacation kind of thing, not like a go down there for the game and come back kind of thing. And then I think the same sentiment goes for the Texas Bowl in Houston. I think it's like, well, can we go somewhere else? But to do that, you got to perform at a certain level. I have no idea, if you were to look at the bowl predictions, if Texas even finds themselves in one right now, because as I said, they got to win out now.
Yeah, they have to win out, but certainly, sometimes a 6-6 team. In fact, I think a few years ago, I think UTSA went 6-6 and didn't get into a bowl. Sometimes a 6-6 team isn't selected, but Texas, because of the brand, I mean, any bowl that can select a 6-6 team,
no matter how bad it is, fans will travel. They will travel just so they can go hate on them.
Oh, true. There's that as well. Speaking of hate, this is a good segue. Hating on them or hating on him. Strange comments by Rex Ryan, the former New York Jets head coach. He was on a podcast for the Four Letter Network where he is a football commentator. Rex Ryan was the coach of the Jets. He was the coach of the Jets when, with Mark Sanchez, they went to 2 AFC championship games. So Rex Ryan, for a while, was kind of successful as the Jets coach. The Jets coach is now Robert Saleh, and the Jets have been getting blown out a lot lately. Lately, the lopsided losses have gotten very, very ugly, and you'll recall Robert Saleh was the defensive coordinator with the San Francisco 49ers. So we're going to play you back-to-back audio. First, it's Rex Ryan with his strangely angry comments about Robert Saleh, because apparently someone was comparing him to Robert Saleh, given they're both their defensive backgrounds. And then right after we hear Rex Ryan yesterday, within a couple of hours, Robert Saleh was on a radio show called the Michael K Radio Show and was asked directly about Rex Ryan's comments. So first we'll hear Rex Ryan, and then immediately after you'll hear Jets head coach Robert Saleh. Here it is.
This guy's supposed to be a defensive guru. I heard everything, and I think it personal on this one. Everything I heard about was, well, this guy's a lot like myself, but without the bad part. Yeah, well, some of the bad part you need, because this team doesn't play with any damn heart. I mean, that's the thing that's disappointing to me. And don't ever compare this guy to me, this Robert Saleh to me. Because statistically, one time they were like a top defense. All right? Here's one thing they're going to be familiar with. 4 out of 5 years, the 49ers were dead last in their division. So he's going to be dead last again. So he's used to that. So to me, I'm a little pissed off about it when I hear that this guy, his background's a lot like yours. No, it isn't. No, it isn't.
Jets head coach Robert Saleh, your thoughts on what Rex said?
Honestly, you know what? I've never met Rex. I've never had a conversation with Rex. I don't even know him except for people who know him throughout the league. So obviously, if it's that personal for him, he knows where to find me. So
were you surprised that he said it?
I'm not surprised by him. He's always got something to say.
Wow. Both of them, Shannon, I think getting a little personal. And so, I mean, Rex started it, but Rex Ryan, as a football analyst, what is up with Rex Ryan? He was like extra testy about that.
Let's be a little more bipartisan than that. he kind of, I think, is riding on the fact that the last time the Jets, and you alluded to it, sniffed a little bit of success, he happened to be at the helm. And he's always kind of been that guy who will take shots, especially if he does feel like someone's coming after him personally. Now, Robert Saleh, he started with, I don't know him personally, he doesn't know me, and you're like, oh, he's about to take the higher ground here, and then he gives the, where to find me, and what did he say at the end?
Well, of course, he likes to make he said,
oh yeah, he likes
does
to
it
make
surprise you that
like,
he said this?
I thought you just said you didn't know him. Now you're like, he this is what he does. I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah,
it's I mean, I love it, as it doesn't affect me. And it's, the Jets are laughable a group, but it's just one of the more interesting beefs to have. I mean, usually when you have beef, it's between like two powerhouse guys, right?
Right.
And
going after each other.
I'm trying to be the first one up from the bottom
now
in this fight.
What's so weird about it, though, because, we talked last week when Terry Bradshaw went off on Aaron Rodgers. We talked about the code that exists among Hall of Famers, and we thought maybe it applied to a future Hall of Famer. Apparently not, in the case of Terry Bradshaw talking about Aaron Rodgers. But also former coaches, Shannon, who are analysts. I mean, this is rare. Yeah, I mean, I think there's an unspoken code, and because coaches cross-pollinate so often or have, and I know Rex Ryan is probably not expecting maybe to get back into the league, but so often a coach will become a head coach and it won't work out, and then that guy becomes an offensive or a defensive coordinator on another NFL football team. So you don't normally see a coach. I mean, just look at Jimmy Johnson, and while there can be constructive criticism about the team, it's usually not this personal. This was very, very personal this time.
Yeah, talk about the team, the play calling, whatever, but he definitely went there, and he went there because he felt like it was personal. Robert Saleh didn't make the comparisons to you, Rex Ryan. That was other people. Take the beef up with the people that were comparing, and then that hurt your feelings that Saleh has gone out there and, not had a fantastic run so far with the Jets, but to make it personal towards Saleh because you felt personally attacked by someone else making that comparison. But I do agree with Saleh that this feels like a very Rex Ryan move to do. That's just kind of the guy he is. And why I know it didn't seem like a lot of players when they did play for him really cared for that experience.
Yeah. And to your point, and I have seen it since he's been an analyst, Rex Ryan does kind of like to throw grenades. I sometimes
he's Mr. Clickbait.
Yeah. I sometimes think people do this to try to make themselves relevant, to try to get themselves talked about. One thing about Rex Ryan, though, I tuned in the other day and saw him on, I guess it's the 4-Letter Network, on a football panel discussion. Dude, you know when people get new teeth and their teeth are too white? Rex Ryan, top and bottom, his teeth are so white. They're like beyond porcelain. I almost had to turn the brightness down on my television monitor. Yeah. It's like, dude, and when they're that white, it calls attention to the fact those are not your real teeth.
Yeah, those have become really popular. I have 2 fake teeth. And I was very nervous that they would turn out, and then that would make my whole mouth look really janky. And they don't look anything like that. You can't even tell because they match my regular teeth. That are just naturally human colored.
Right.
I can only do so much, but yeah, those are almost make it hard to watch. And so many people are getting them on TV.
And it's all I could notice.
Look away.
I don't. He was talking about football, but every time the camera, it's like, my God, look at those teeth, and like top and bottom, and they're just so bright. And you just said a color that is human. If I ever get veneers, that's what I'm gonna say. Hey, man, do you have human teeth color instead of the ridiculous blinding white light?
And even the shape, they look like plastic.
Exactly. It's like someone drew in and Sorry so here I am.
If anyone needs fake teeth and doesn't want that, just hit me up. I'll tell you how to get some normal looking ones.
Very nice. So Rex Ryan goes off on Robert Saleh, and then I go off on Rex Ryan's teeth. That's just wrong.
Way to make it personal, Chris.
I know. Yeah. So now Rex is going to probably Yeah, hear about it and come back after us. All right, tell you what, it is 7:20. If you win the $1,000, you could probably get some really nice white teeth. It is the Grand in Your Hand cash contest. Somebody wins $1,000 every single hour. It may as well be you. You're going to get a keyword. We're going to tell you where to text it, and you are in the running for $1,000. Here it is.
Now, your chance to win $1,000. Text the nationwide keyword pay to 200-200. You'll get a confirmation text and info. Standard data and message rates apply in this nationwide contest. That's pay to 200-200.
Pay is the keyword. We hope you win. And don't forget, on the 20s, all day long, on weekdays, we started at 6:20. We go until 9:20 at night. And as I mentioned, somebody wins $1,000 every single hour. It's way, way cool. So, check that out. All right. Speaking of bling and talking about the shiny teeth of Rex Ryan, in the game last night, San Francisco 49ers against the LA Rams, Deebo Samuel of the 49ers, one of his touchdowns, he had a rushing touchdown, he had a receiving touchdown. He goes into the end zone, Shannon, and he does an end zone celebration, and he's got this huge golden, shimmering, shiny, sparkly, gigantic chain necklace with a huge, almost life-size San Francisco 49er. Looks like a diamond-studded football helmet on it. Just a massive chain to celebrate in the end zone. Remember when, like T.O., or was it Randy Moss who pulled out the Sharpie? I think it was a T.O. or Randy Moss pulled out a Sharpie and started, writing on the goalpost and got flagged and fined. These end zone celebrations are getting a little bit ridiculous, I think.
I've seen the picture of it. Was he wearing it already and he pulled it out, or did he go grab it and put it on?
He grabbed it and put it on.
Okay,
I don't think he could
that's
possibly.
Too big to possibly.
Yeah.
There, I'm wondering if real or fake. There's a good chance it's real, and for that, I'm like, waste of money. But do you, buddy? This reminds me of, and I don't even know if they do anymore because they've really been struggling, but the Miami Manny Diaz turnover chain. We got a touchdown chain now.
Yeah.
Is that where we are?
Does
he share that with his teammates?
It's a good question. Yeah. I'm all for celebrations. I enjoy exuberance, but when you start bringing props in, when you start bringing in like a ridiculous prop and chain with a 49er helmet, and if you haven't seen that, go look at it on social media. It's gigantic and ridiculous. I think this is, where's it going to end? Are people going to start handing you all kinds of props and torches and tikis and God knows what else from the stands when you celebrate now in the end zone?
Right. It's hard to top the Lambeau leap.
Yes.
Right. Which
is cool.
That is the
unique.
ultimate, in my opinion, celebration. It's historic. Your prop it's already there, right? It's you don't bring anything out. It's just part of it. It's a celebration with the fans. This one felt more selfish. Look at me. Look how shiny I am. Look at this touchdown. I love the Lambeau leap. I love giving the ball to a young fan in the stand.
That's way cool.
Moment that they'll never forget. I like those kind of vibes. I even love a team dance celebration, a pre-choreographed routine, whether it's the bowling, whether it's the NSYNC Bye Bye Bye, I believe, won the Bud Light Celly contest that they had last year during the season, the touchdown Cellies that they were doing. I'm for that, but the props, I think I'm with you here. We need to draw a line.
And celebrating a touchdown, yes, absolutely. I get it. Celebrating a pick six, of course. Celebrating an interception, I get it. But there's way too many celebrations now, after a sack. And I realize you're a defensive lineman.
Yeah, what else are they going to
Yeah, I get it. So maybe, we can't stop that. And even though Ezekiel Elliott does it, and he's got a very unique way, feed me, signaling first down Cowboys. And I'm obviously, as a Cowboys fan, whenever Ezekiel Elliott gets a first down, I'm happy. So it doesn't really grate on my nerves as much as when I see it from other teams. So maybe I'm being a little hypocritical about this, but I'm celebrating a first down and making it that big of a deal is a little much, if you ask me.
Now, what have we ever talked about the Zeke tattoo?
The Zeke
That
tattoo.
he has "Feed Me" tattooed on his lower stomach.
I have heard about it. I don't know that you and I have actually discussed it.
Because obviously NFL rules in the uniform, he can't do like he did in college and have half of his stomach showing during a game, but it is there. And obviously it stems from the act that, he does the whole eating cereal, whatever, feed me bit. That to me, it's almost like instead of physically pulling out a bowl and spoon every time he scores or gets a first down, he's just got that to remind people of.
That's a thought.
It's almost as good as the zombie tattoo on his calf that is of his face with the zombie eyes.
Now, and what is that supposed to mean? That he is a zombie? That he is such a beast?
I have no idea.
At running the football?
The fact that he has his own face on his own leg. I guess maybe when he's not around a mirror, he can look at himself. But the zombie eye thing, it's, I don't know. Maybe he's a big fan of Call of Duty Zombies. These are questions that we need answers to, Cowboys fans.
You are correct. That's a tremendous question. Coming up, Shannon's Salty Shakedown is now moments away. We'll get right to it in the very next segment, along with this day in sports history and sports birthdays. And what about the Texas Longhorn football team? What's next? Can they win at West Virginia? Taylor Estes, the managing editor of Horns 24/7, going to join us just after 8 o'clock. And yep, she not only covers football, she covers all sports at Texas. So we might dive into some Longhorn hoops talk as well with Taylor. You can join us at any time, 800-707-9760. 820, another shot at $1,000. Lots going on. Live video feed. You can join us there as well. Facebook Live, Twitter, and YouTube. She is Shannon Salty Sweeney. The boss man, Brian Gann, makes the show go. With you till 9, it's the Chris Duel Show.
All right. All right.
Woo. Joe Horn pulled out a cell phone. I forgot about that, Sam. I remember that now that you told me.
Oh, the sack celebration? The selfie thing?
Yes. And the cell phone. Wes Perkins, good morning.
Now, Jason, why you got to say that?
Okay, what did Jason say? I missed it.
Toe sucking cleans your teeth like no other.
My God, Jason, that's a little
and now
much.
You just had me say it.
Yeah, that's a little frightening.
Way to go, Jason.
Ernest Givens, Quake. Yeah, the original California Quake, Dean, was Butch Johnson of the Cowboys. Used to do what he called the California Quake. But yeah, John, I remember Zeke jumping into the Salvation Army container. But again, that was Thanksgiving Day. That red Salvation Army pot, usually not there. To me, that was creative.
And didn't they get a ton of donations after that?
I think you're right. Yes.
And then I think Zeke got fined, but then I think he and Dak then matched that fine and sent it to the Salvation.
Yes. Those are all, yeah.
And so everyone was pissed at the NFL for the fine to begin with. Like,
Christopher Silva says if Texas goes to a bowl, that would put such a black eye on the bowl system. I don't think, Christopher, the rules are you win 6 games, you're bowl eligible. So, and then if you were running a bowl, Christopher, and you could choose between Texas and, Mississippi State, you choose Texas.
Yeah. Well, and think of last year with COVID, you had teams with 4 wins going into
Good point. You are correct.
It's good, Jason. We love that you're committed and engaged. Yeah, T.O. had some good ones throughout his time. But he was using what was already in front of him, which made it nice.
Sam, based on the previous polls, they're going to move down a little bit. They dropped a couple in each because that game against Southern Miss was so close. So I do not expect them to move up in the college football playoff rankings tonight. But I would like to be pleasantly surprised. Yeah, I agree with Wes Perkins. No one apologizes for making a bowl. Extra time and prep is great for the team, and it helps with recruiting. Good point. I didn't even think of the recruiting angle. You're right. Let me see here.
Less than a minute out.
Okay, thank you.
I'll have all that audio ready.
Oh, okay. Thanks. Yeah, and I'll try to blow through history and birthdays a little quicker. Here we come.
Back. It's the Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney. Join in by dialing 1-800-707-9760.
Dial us up anytime. We'll take your phone calls, talk sports, and more with you. Don't forget, coming up in the 8 o'clock hour, just after 8 o'clock, Taylor Estes, the managing editor of Horns 24/7, will go deep into Longhorn football and basketball. Your chance to win $1,000 coming up at 8:20 once again. Shannon Salty Shakedown is seconds away, but first, sports birthdays and this day in sports history. November 16th, 1957, Boston Celtics center Bill Russell sets the NBA record of 49 rebounds as Boston beats the Philadelphia Warriors 111-89 at Boston Garden. On this day in 1969, President Richard Nixon becomes the first president to attend an NFL football game while in office. That's kind of amazing. It didn't happen until 1969. It was the Cowboys beating the Washington football team 41-28. And as I recall, he was a Washington fan. So take that, Nixon. Cowboys win. On this day in 2003, not that I'm bitter, on this day in 2003, 16-year-old Lionel Messi makes his official debut for FC Barcelona when he comes on as a substitute in a friendly against Porto. Kind of worked out for him. He kind of had a decent career. That's your sports history. How about some sports birthdays? Born on this day in 1946, basketball player, Olympic gold medalist in 1968, played for the Celtics. JoJo White was born in St. Louis, Missouri. Sadly, JoJo passed away in 2018. Born on this day in 1964, baseball pitcher, four-time Major League Baseball All-Star, Cy Young Award winner, and Triple Crown winner in 85 with the New York Mets, Dwight Gooden, born in Tampa, Florida on this day in 1964. And finally, born on this day in the Ukrainian figure skater, Oksana Bayul. She won Olympic gold in 1994. She was kind of a big deal in the 1994 Olympics. Those are your sports birthdays. That's your sports history. And now, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends, Romans, countrymen, farm animals, pole assassins, and monkeys, it's time once again for your Salty Shakedown.
It's funny you mentioned pole assassin and monkeys because at this point, everyone's continuing to point at that to be the downfall for Texas. It just has gotten worse since the monkey business occurred. So we're going to start with some Texas football here. Of course, Sark had his weekly presser. Yesterday was a little bit longer than it usually is by almost 5 to 10, like 8, maybe 8 minutes. Let's just average it out, call it 8 minutes. I'm not sure who runs the Horns Illustrated Twitter account, but they were really hyping up the question that they were going to ask Sark coming into this presser on Twitter. And turns out they got the opportunity to ask the very first question of the day. It ended up being one of the stranger questions. If you've seen it online, you'll notice the video version already has over 500,000 views. So for all of those who missed it, we've got it for you now. The question and answer from Coach Sark in yesterday's presser.
A couple years ago, one of my good friends and I were faced with a massive problem we couldn't solve. And in his wisdom, he said, at this point, we need to stop and ask ourselves, what would an extraordinary person do in this situation? And this resonated with me the whole weekend. I realized that of all the coaches who could be standing at that podium right now in those shoes, you are that extraordinary person. And you have a team of what I call coaching juggernauts. This is not only my opinion, this is a fact. I don't think anyone can dispute this. So my question as we write, the Sarkisian era story, we're not even done with the first chapter yet. Can you unfold some of the onion of what are you working on and how are you solving this problem? I realize that you might not even know, but I'm going to steal from Julian Edelman. It's going to be one hell of a story.
I think first of all, one, when you take this job, and I've said this before, but I think now is a pertinent time to say it. One, you have to know what you sign up for. You don't take the job at the University of Texas without some expectation of scrutiny, without some expectation. There's a reason I got hired. There's a reason there was a coaching change. So clearly, you have to understand, there's some things that are in there that I have to figure out and get that done. Two, it might not just be smooth sailing, right, all the way. There's going to be bumps in the road. There's going to be rocky waters that we're going to have to navigate our way through. And three, you got to recognize through those times there's going to be scrutiny. and that starts with me, our staff, and then ultimately our players. Whether it's deserving or not, that's the arena that I put myself in. You have to recognize that. So I'm very comfortable understanding kind of where I stand and what the responsibilities are of what I have to do. With all that being said, sometimes through the struggle, which clearly we're in the midst of, you start to get a little bit more clarity on maybe some of the issues that if we had found a way to win some of these fourth quarter games, if we had found a way to win this game in overtime, sometimes those issues kind of get masked over with winning because sometimes winning can kind of cure it all. And one of mentors of mine always told me, playing bad and winning is sometimes the worst thing that can happen to you because you don't address the issues that you have on your team. We, unfortunately, have lost a lot of close games, so it continues to present issues to us that we have to address. And as we go through that process, that's why you try to hire a great staff, which I believe we have, and we navigate our way through it, whether it's one player at a time, one scheme at a time, recruiting, portal, all these things that kind of come across our plate that we're trying to navigate to making sure that we're doing what's in the best interest of the University of Texas and the football program. And so I'll say it again, when I got hired, I'm honored, I'm humbled to be the head football coach at the University of Texas. With that is a lot of responsibility. That's okay. I signed up for it. I know what it is. And, we've got clearly work to do, and we won't stop until we get to the end of the story, which should be a great story. I believe that to be true as well.
A lot to unpack there, Chris. He ends that saying he does believe that it will be a great story that is written, a little glimmer of hope. I did find it interesting, that quote that he had a former mentor say, sometimes when you win, you mask the little things that you need to fix and you don't end up fixing them. So that ends up being worse than a loss. I don't know that I agree with that. I would take a win and then have a coach that can see, hey, you still need to fix these little things. Let's fix them now to continue winning. Rather than taking the losses we have had. But anything stick out to you from that kind of odd question that turned into a bit of a story time with Coach Sark yesterday?
Yeah, the weirdest part was the question itself. You and I have either been in or listened to and watched a number of sports press conferences over the years.
We all know that guy.
A, we know that guy, but B, I just the way he asked that's one of the weirder asks and questions in a press conference, certainly to a head coach that I've heard. But it is an interesting point, and I'm with you. I'd rather get the win and find out what the problems are and fix the problems. But you look at the close losses to Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, Baylor, and now Kansas. You would expect Texas would win 2 of those, and if they would have won 2 of those, they'd already be bowl eligible, and things wouldn't seem nearly as dire. Yeah. So he makes an interesting point, but everything he said, Shannon, he had to say. You've got to you've got to say it's a great story in the making.
And I appreciate he pretty much said it twice. He understands what it means to be the head coach of Texas football. It doesn't mean that everything is going to be shiny and summery and beautiful all of the time. If you're going to take the good, you got to take the bad as well. And unfortunately right now it's more bad than good. But he does have the confidence that he will get this team back where it needs to be with the coaching staff he has and the players he's got in place currently. So we'll look forward to West Virginia. Again, Taylor Estes joining us in about 15 minutes, just shortly after 8 o'clock, to talk more Texas football. All right, moving on to story number 2. Chris, Monday Night Football, the Mannings were back in action with the Manning cast, and they had Mr. Phil Mickelson join them. Of course, Peyton has golfed with Phil before. I'm sure they're very friendly off the screen at times, and so they felt comfortable in asking him about this Manning cast curse that appears to exist. And I think they were hoping that Phil Mickelson would be on the Manning side, but turns out not so much. Here's what Phil had to say.
The little thing kind of going around, people are talking about this thing called the Manning curse, where apparently if you come on this show, if you're an active football player, the next week you lose the game. And can you guys kind of just do us a favor and tell people that there's no such thing as a curse? That's not a real thing?
No, I believe that it is a thing, and that's why I'm not playing next week. I didn't know if it would carry over into golf or not. I think it's real, and so I think it's important you get people that are here on your Manning cast the week before bye. That's probably the best way to do it.
Peyton went on to say that they should schedule people who will be playing either the Colts, Broncos, or Giants in their following game to help out their former teams. On last night's cast, no current players. So no active players, as Phil mentioned, to get cursed, but they did have Al Michaels, Phil Mickelson, Draymond Green, and Phillip Rivers. So it should be interesting because, as you heard, Phil Mickelson said, listen, I think it may transfer over. I didn't want to be a part of it. That's why I'm not playing golf this weekend. Well, Draymond Green, currently the NBA season going on. He was obviously off last night, but the 11-2 Warriors take on the 10-4 Brooklyn Nets tonight.
Wow.
So if the Manning cast curse exists, if it does transcend football, we will have our answer tonight. So keep an eye out for that Golden State and Brooklyn game going on in Brooklyn tonight. That one should be interesting as well. And finally today, Chris, the holidays are upon us. We are very close to Thanksgiving, and I know a lot of people love pie. And I think the typical pie is a pumpkin pie. Not something I'm a fan of. I typically skip dessert on Thanksgiving, just not my thing. But I would have this. Okay, Reese's announced that they have a 9-inch round, 3.25 pound solid peanut butter and chocolate pie.
Whoa.
For Reese's. Now, I think they've done like giant Reese's before where maybe they were like an inch thick and they were a little bit bigger. Yeah. I don't know how you cut the thing because anytime you bite into a Reese's, the smoothness of the chocolate immediately crumbles everywhere. Not sure how that's going to work. I know in the picture, obviously it's picture perfect, so that didn't take place. But Chris, they're already sold out. Within hours of the announcement, they only made 3,000. They became sold out for $45 a piece. I'm not sure if this is something they'll continue. I don't know if it's just kind of a novelty thing because I think we've all at one point in our lives, for some almost like a gag gift, we've gotten an oversized chocolate whatever. Yeah. Almost never eat them. But if this was a pie that if someone was like, hey, you're responsible for dessert, I would be fine with bringing that. I'd be fine if someone else brought it to me. I don't know that I could eat a lot of it because it is still just straight up chocolate and peanut butter. But I like the idea. How about you? Because I think we've had this conversation. You and I both big fans of the chocolate and peanut butter combo.
I'm a huge peanut butter cup guy. But I mean, think about a slice of pie, and now that slice of pie is essentially a Reese's peanut butter cup. I mean, my God. After you've had turkey dinner,
yeah.
I mean,
you're not ready to pass out yet.
If you eat that whole thing, man, you're going down one way or another. So, but I love the idea. Brilliant. And I'm wondering why they must have known market research. This was going to be a hot item. They only made 3,000, and maybe that's the plan. That next time they want to generate the buzz now, and the plan is to sell it next time.
Perhaps there'll be like a December release because again, this was I think was announced yesterday, and this is the 16th. Thanksgiving next Thursday, probably with all the shipping delays that are already in existence. Let's make sure that these 3,000 get to where they need to be for Thanksgiving. But there it is. Today's delightfully delicious salty shakedown.
Delightfully delicious. And kudos to Phil Mickelson for sticking by his guns and asserting. And we talk about jinxes a lot and curses, Shannon, on the show. I am a big believer in the blue jersey jinx when the Cowboys wear the blue jersey. That was confirmed to me on the radio several years ago by Bob Lilly, Mr. Cowboy. The blue jersey jinx is real. It exists. The Sports Illustrated jinx is real. It exists. The Madden curse exists. Now, what you said, though, and it is going to be fascinating tonight to watch if the Golden State Warriors lose, and Draymond Green having been on the Manning cast last night, then this thing's going to take on even bigger life. But even if Golden State wins tonight, and I always say, whenever the Cowboys win in their blue jerseys, I always get a few tweets from people, see, there's no blue jersey. See, look, they won. There's no such thing. It's like, dude, a jinx is a trend more often than not. If you're on the cover of Sports Illustrated, or if the Cowboys wear the blue jersey, or if you're on the cover of Madden, maybe not every time, but there is a trend more often than not. Things will go. And I think that's win or lose tonight for the Golden State Warriors. I will still think that's where we are. But you got to believe, Shannon, the fact that Peyton and Eli Manning are talking about it, and there were no active NFL players on their show last night, it's in their head now too.
Yeah, it's almost like they took a pause to prove a point, and then you have
Yeah.
Phil. I love Eli asking a question, and Phil going, "No, I believe it's right." That pause. I don't think either of the man. Clearly, the question was clearly a setup, but the answer came from the heart there for Phil. So it'll be super. And as you mentioned, basketball clearly a different operation than that on the football field, and with the Warriors, I mean, sometimes it's Curry that just drags that team to a win. So they could win and Draymond not have a great game, and then we could still point to it being an operation done in from the Manning cast. And I'm sure they won't have a problem getting guests, even current football players, right? Because they are the Mannings. It's great, to get yourself out there in that way. And there's that one guy that's like, it ain't gonna be me. It's not going to happen to me. I'm that good. I'm that great. I'm going to break the curse. Why do people still take the Madden cover? Why do people still take the Sports Illustrated cover? Why do the Cowboys still wear the blue jeans jerseys?
And now Wes Perkins on Facebook Live on the live video feed is citing the red stripe jinx. That means that when the Cowboys had the red stripe on the helmet to honor the service members just before Veterans Day against the Broncos. See, and to that I say we don't have enough of a sample size. Plus, they wore that the entire season in 1976. Under Tom Landry, the bicentennial year with Roger at quarterback. Now, they didn't win the Super Bowl that year, but as I recall, they had a winning season. They won the NFC East, and they went to the playoffs. So I dispute, or I would say not enough evidence yet to declare a red stripe jinx on the Cowboys helmet.
Yeah, and clearly it wasn't made as like some uniform statement, whatever, to be pretty. I mean, that was in honor of the first game of November for them in the month where we celebrate our vets and military. So that was a moment, and it was more for the thought rather than for, potentially being a new version that I think that we'll see very often.
I've said for years, ever since 1976, and ever since the Cowboys have been known as America's team. I like the look. I love, because what the red stripe does clearly is you look at the helmet, it's red, white, and blue.
Yeah, it's
the
an
three stripes.
Touch.
So to me, it's saying, yep, we are America's team. Now, you can't be cocky after all of these years under Jerry Jones when we've done nothing since Super Bowl 30 in January of 1996. So I guess if the Cowboys rolled that out and are not going to Super Bowls, it's a little ridiculous. But I like the look a lot, and I hope it's not a jinx, and I hope we see it again. And it would be cool if at the very least the Cowboys do that every Veterans Day game. I mean, obviously not every game, and it didn't this year fall on November 11th, but to write the game right before Veterans Day to honor veterans, if that was how they did it. And made that a tradition. I like that a lot.
It's a great touch. And a lot of people, they don't have that on their calendar, and they tune in to watch the Cowboys, and then they think, well, why is that happening? They look it up, and they're being educated.
Yes.
Via the Cowboys uniforms. I like it. If that becomes a thing that they do, once a year or so be it.
Very, very cool. All right. We will dive back into the world of Texas Longhorn football. What else did we learn from Sark's press conference yesterday? I'm sure Taylor Estes of Horns 24/7 was all over the press conference. She is certainly all over Texas Longhorn athletics. So we will dive into football. What are the odds of winning these last two games, beginning with this weekend's game at West Virginia? Become bowl eligible and get another game, get a bowl game. How does Taylor Estes feel about that? We'll also take a look at Texas Longhorns men's basketball, especially after the game last weekend, the loss to number 1 Gonzaga, and arm flexing, cocky Drew Timme. I've already had enough of that guy. I got to be called the boss man, Jason McCullum, a big Gonzaga guy. So
you know what? I didn't hear from him after that win.
Yeah,
so how big of a
that's
fan
right. He could have been all mocking you, and he chose not to. So that's cool. Lots coming up. Big 8 o'clock hour. Stay with us on the Chris Duel Show. All right. And we don't do this enough, but I'm going to do it more. We did it with the Wes Perkins. If you've got something that is pertinent to what we're talking about. And I should have done it when we had the Sark reply. Louisa and I just there it is. There's Louisa saying, I liked Sark's reply. That was a pretty insulting question. I trust Sark. So that was good. And then somebody here asked, and obviously I can't read Hebrew, so I can't tell you the name, but somebody asked, do you think, what is the second best league of basketball in the world? Is it the Australian League, the Euro League, or the South American League? I think even though there's great players coming out of all those leagues, I think my test would be how many make it to the NBA. And I think a few more players out of the Euro League make it than the Australian or South American. Although, I mean, South America, Manu Ginobili. Although Manu did play in the Euro League too. So, but that's a really good question. And I'm sure there are people who would debate that. John, that is exactly what I said about the bicentennial year, 76, and those helmets. And I saw them in person. We went to see the Cowboys-Eagles game, regular season 1976, Texas Stadium, and they were wearing those. Let's see here. All right. I'd have been back in a few. I need more ice. Taylor Estes coming up. Do I have the Taylor Estes? There she is. Okay, we got that. Wes says, I was born in 77 and missed the red stripe season. See, it's red stripe, but I see it as red, white, and blue. Let me see what they did in the 76 season. 1976 Cowboys. All right, 76, 11-3. 11-3, but I do think they lost early in the playoffs. Yeah, they got bounced in the divisional round by the Rams, 14-12. So 11-3 regular season, win the NFC East. And 11-3 is better than 12-4 if you expand that to a 16, because that would be a 500 over the next two games. So, but yeah, so 11-4, including the playoff loss. I'm not calling that a jinx, Wes. Yeah, if you can get her. Thank you.
Voicemail.
Okay, once we get rolling, try her one more time once we get into the segment, and then we'll move on if we don't get her. Thank you. Yeah, voicemail on Taylor. I'm going to send her a little. That happened once before. Let's see.
This is the Chris Duel Show.
You're gonna do this toy tonight. 95 today. Try to run, try to hide. Bring on you to the other side.
It is a Taco Tuesday. Welcome in. It's the Chris Duel Show with Shannon, Salty, Sweeney. So much going on in the world of sports. NFL, college football, NBA, college basketball. And last night, Shannon, we talked about it at the top of the show, a Monday night football game that did not go the way a lot of people expected, certainly not the way I expected, as the 3-5 going into the game. San Francisco 49ers at 3-5, Rams were 7-2, and a beatdown by the 49ers on the Rams team that you have been calling ring chasers, going after players like Von Miller and Odell Beckham Jr. And so far, the experiment is not yet fully operational with the Los Angeles Rams.
No. And I don't think you can expect it to be immediately. I mean, that showed last night, especially when Matthew Stafford is having such turnover troubles.
Yeah. So that you've got that going on in the National Football League. And we've talked a lot about the Texas Longhorns, and we heard Sark's presser, or a moment from Sark's presser earlier, Shannon. And, you know, here we are with, I mean, the expectations were so high, and now if they don't go to a bowl game, and you've got to win the next 2 games here to become bowl eligible. If they don't go to a bowl game, you look at the Charlie Strong era, you look at the Tom Herman era, and I just wonder an entire offseason of Texas Longhorn fans unhappy and looking back on the way the season ended. And as we talked about earlier, we find out yesterday that Bijan Robinson is gone for the season with a dislocated elbow. I mean, things currently just seem to be sliding and getting worse. Obviously, that Kansas loss was the worst of the season. Some are saying the worst ever for Texas Longhorn football. Hopefully they find a way to turn things around and get well against West Virginia.
Yeah, they've got a lot to work on, and I'm sure we'll see some shifts in players and their positioning. And then also the quarterback question. We talked about it last week. We'd like to see a quarterback established, so we know that that's the guy going into next season, and that's still very much a question mark after last week's game.
So we shall see. We were unable to connect with Taylor Estes. We'll get her back on the show again sometime soon. NBA action last night, Shannon, as we mentioned as well, your Dallas Mavericks get a big win against the Denver Nuggets. You know, the Mavericks, we might have to start taking them very, very seriously. Nuggets expected to be a very good team in the Western Conference. Mavs beat them last night, 111-101. Kristaps Porzingis, who had a big night when you were at the AT&T Center on Friday night when the Mavs beat the San Antonio Spurs. Last night, a double-double from Kristaps Porzingis, 29 points, 11 rebounds to lead the Mavericks. But we saw Luka Doncic leave the game with an ankle injury. It looked like his left ankle. He's had a history of issues with his ankles. So we'll have to see how that plays out for him.
Yeah, that doesn't put a smile on my face. But Kristaps playing a lot better, I think, than, you know, when we kind of got him. He was trying to find his way on that team. And when I saw him in San Antonio for that game, I don't know if it was my seat that made it look like he was an entire head above any man that was defending on him, but he was shooting a lot of threes. I was like, why are you not just on the block? I mean, easy buckets. I know this is a 3-point league, but if you're making buckets that easily, why would you not take them when you can? And so that, to me, I think he needs to start getting back down there a little bit more than being the big man who likes to pop a three every now and again.
Yeah, now that we're, more than 10 games into the season, some teams have gone 13 games, some teams 14, some 15. Lakers have played 15 games. Just looking at the standings, you brought up the fact that Draymond Green and the Golden State Warriors are at 11-2. In fact, they've lost one recently. They're on a 1-game loss, so it would be a losing streak if they lose 2 now to the Brooklyn Nets. But so they started at 11-1. But at 11-2 now, the Golden State Warriors, that is the best record in the NBA. And, with their injury issues the last couple of years, they've been out of it. But, when you've got Steph Curry, when you've got Draymond Green, and they've been getting lottery picks, they've been adding lottery players to that roster. They are certainly a force to be reckoned with now at 11-2. It's interesting. going into the season, and for the last couple of seasons, most people thought it's going to be the LA Lakers and the LA Clippers. At the moment, Lakers at 8-7, Clippers, who the Spurs play tonight, at 8-5. Neither of those teams the class of the Western Conference. In fact, with the win last night at 9-4, Mavericks move, and I know it's really early to talk what slot you're in, but it just gets a nice little snapshot on November 16th. At the moment, the Mavericks in the 3 slot in the Western Conference at 9-4, so they've got to be happy about where they are.
Yeah, and when it comes to Golden State, you mentioned those lottery picks. It's like they're going back to what got them to that initial championship run, right? Homegrown guys that can get in and learn their system and truly be a part of that organization. They dabbled with a dude named Kevin Durant, and that worked out for him. But I think they've kind of got this formula. I mean, Steph Curry at this point seems like he will finish his career there. I feel like Draymond will do all he can to stay there. Klay Thompson as well. I mean, if you can do that, if you can have a big 3 similar to like what you had in San Antonio with Tony Parker, with Manu, and with Tim Duncan, where they were guys who were committed to sticking around and playing it out to continue winning, I think they're setting themselves up for another run of success.
And one of the anomalies, as we're looking at the standings going to the Eastern Conference, Shannon, the Milwaukee Bucks, they've just lost 2 in a row. They're sub 500 at 6-8, defending NBA champions. And again, I'm not, it's so early. I wouldn't be freaking out yet if I'm a Bucks fan. But a little surprising as we see teams like the Chicago Bulls at 10-4, the Brooklyn Nets, who we mentioned, at 10-4, and a surprise, the team atop the Eastern Conference is the Washington Wizards at 10-3, a half a game above the Bulls and the Nets. So some strange happenings, some strange goings on with some teams out of the gate in this early NBA season so far.
Now, I want to ask you this again, very early. It's not like the Bucks are completely floundering here, but when they started that series against the Nets and they went down in the playoffs, the conversation was Mike Budenholzer gonna be out of here. And obviously they turn around, they end up winning the whole thing, not just the series, but the championship, and it's up. He's the guy. I mean, he is it. But here we are having this conversation of, oh, it's not the same team. It's not looking so great to start. That doesn't mean it won't get better. But if it doesn't get better, if for whatever reason they miss the playoffs or they get knocked out in an ugly fashion, do we go back to Mike Budenholzer, not the guy?
See, I got to believe when you win a title, and it had been like 50 years since the Milwaukee Bucks had won a title.
It makes it harder for sure, but
yeah,
the business that we're in these days.
Yeah. But I think that buys him like at least a couple of years. And of course, the X factor in Milwaukee is Giannis. And I think Giannis has a very good relationship with Mike Budenholzer, and Giannis very loyal to the city of Milwaukee, to that fan base, having re-signed there. And it's interesting that Giannis's brother is on that roster and plays. And I always wonder how much of that is, how talented is Giannis's brother, or is that Mike Budenholzer and that franchise doing him a solid to make sure that Giannis is happy? Because, I mean, if you think about it, and it got you a championship, it's a great strategy if it keeps Giannis on your team and in town and winning championships. But I still wonder if he's that talented.
Yeah. Is there a third brother? Isn't there a third brother somewhere?
If there is, I don't think he's on the Bucks team.
It is interesting, and you say that, and I think of the Watt situation, right? Because TJ Watt, huge for Pittsburgh, and he obviously sat out a lot of training camp waiting to get a deal done. And he's got Derek Watt on that team as well, who was originally with the Chargers, and then came over and signed with the Steelers so he could play with his brother. But as a fullback, he doesn't get a ton of use. And I don't see him sustaining that much longer of a career, but I think he's still kind of hanging on because of that tie to his brother, who is such a big part of that defense in Pittsburgh and is, consistently up there in the talks for Defensive Player of the Year. I think your thoughts on Antetokounmpo's, I think I agree. How good is he?
Yeah, his brother Thanasis Adetokunbo. I'm looking at the roster right now of the Milwaukee Bucks. See, I don't see a third one, but maybe there's another brother out there who's going to be coming soon. They've got the base salary for Giannis and his brother Thanasis Adetokunbo. Giannis makes $39.3 million per year. Thanasis makes $1.6 million per year, but that's a good gig. If your brother can get you a gig for $1.6 million a year playing basketball in the NBA for the Milwaukee Bucks. And obviously, I mean, you got to be pretty good to make an NBA roster, even if you are Giannis's brother. But I've often wondered, if he's like right there on the borderline and you're Mike Budenholzer and even the general manager and owner of the Milwaukee Bucks, do you keep that guy? And I think you do, in order to have Giannis.
Yeah. So there looks like there's two other brothers. Alex, who I think is currently in the G League. It looks like he may be with the Raptors unit. And then Kostas, who previously played with Los Angeles, but he's now in some other league that I've never heard of before. But I mean, good enough to at least sniff out the NBA.
Yeah. And then, of course, a story that's coming. You talk about family members being on your team in the case of the Adetokunbos and the Milwaukee Bucks. The developing story, I think within 2 years, Bronny James, who the other day I saw, he did some kind of a monster slam dunk from like the free throw line, went fly into the basket with a monster slam dunk. The word is out there that part of what LeBron James wants to do is play long enough to play with his son. So, again, you've got to wonder if he's decent, but not great. And by all accounts now, I mean, he wouldn't be a number one pick or a lottery pick, at least not yet. But do the Los Angeles Lakers, do they give more opportunity to Bronny, LeBron James' son, than they might another player with the same skill set, just because of who he is and just because LeBron wants to play with him? Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out as well.
I apologize for the dumb question, but if you are coming out of either your year in the G League or college and you want to go play in the NBA, do you have to enter the draft?
Yes.
Okay, so
unless you're not drafted,
you can't be like, oh, I don't really want to play, and then after the draft and everything goes down, you're like, oh, but I do want to play, and I'm a free agent now. Let me sign where I want to.
Well,
I feel like you're gonna, because that's the question of how are they going to finagle him getting on that team, and then is LeBron going to do as much as to like move around all the pieces he has there now to provide more playing time to his kids so that they can play together?
It's a great question. I mean, I'm kind of just because I love a spectacle.
Yeah,
I'm kind of hoping it happens, and I'm kind of hoping he's that good and that it works out. But yeah, you've got to wonder how. But again, the Lakers over the years, and I go back to when Jerry West gifted Pau Gasol when he was great and in his prime, and he essentially gifted him to the Lakers from the Memphis Grizzlies at the time. The Lakers in the NBA have a magical way of things kind of working out for them. So we'll have to see how that might play out. But again, Spurs in action tonight against the Los Angeles Clippers. That's a night game. That's a tip-off after 9:30. Pregame on 1200 WOAI and the Spurs Radio Network at 9 with the voice of the San Antonio Spurs, Bill Schoening. It is 8:20. We do this on the 20s, not only during this show, but all day long, starting at 6:20 and going all the way until 9:20 at night. It is the Grand in Your Hand cash contest. Somebody wins $1,000 each and every hour. You have a shot right now. Here it is.
Now, your chance to win $1,000. Text the nationwide keyword BANK to 200-200.
I didn't hear you.
Confirmation text and info, standard data and message rates apply.
Okay.
This nationwide contest. That's BANK to 200-200.
Bank is the keyword. Best of luck. And if you don't win the $1,000 right now, you got another shot at 9:20 and all day long until 9:20 tonight on the 20s. All right, Shannon, back to college football. And we don't talk enough about Texas A&M because they are a big deal. I know, a lot of our audience, obviously, with the big Austin audience, Longhorn fans, Longhorns have a huge fan base in San Antonio as well, and we carry the Longhorn games on 1200 WOAI. But Jimbo Fisher made some noise yesterday A lot of people continuing to speculate that he might be in line for that LSU job. And he made it quite clear yesterday. I think he said something along the lines of, I'd be stupid to take the LSU job, because he's convinced that the Aggies are going to wind up with the number 1 ranked recruiting class in college football this coming year. They just signed a big guy recently. We talked about that with James Allen, who's an Aggie from the Pro Football Hall of Fame last week. So certainly Jimbo Fisher trying to put out those fires in College Station.
Yeah, he would be stupid. He is right about that. I don't know how much he's gonna. Things change. LSU could come in with a crazy offer, but it's hard to get a better offer than what he's got currently at Texas A&M.
Okay.
And then you mentioned the recruits he's got coming in, how that team is currently playing. They're doing pretty well, especially coming off of those losses. I know they lost a heartbreaker a little bit over the weekend against Ole Miss, but I think things are going in the right direction for that program. But I'll believe it when I see it, kind of thing. Until someone else is put in that spot at LSU, I will still leave a window open for the possibility that Jimbo could pull what we've seen happen time and time again. Coaches sitting there saying, no, season ends and gone. So, okay, Jimbo.
Yeah, we got a little Jimbo Fisher from his media availability yesterday. Here he is talking about the LSU situation.
We're going to recruit an unbelievable class this year. So I mean, the dumbest human being on God's earth, okay, who's going to recruit all these guys at A&M, so I can go across over here and go play against them.
It's a great point that Jimbo Fisher makes. Yeah,
he sounds mad.
He does it. We got a couple more from Jimbo. Here's another same topic. Jimbo Fisher talking about the possibility. What's going on at A&M and what could be going on at LSU.
I love the AD. I love the president. I love the chancellor. I love living here. I love being on my ranch. I love the family loves it here. I love Kyle Field. I love the people. I love all that stuff.
And at least he said ranch singular, Shannon. Last week when this came up, he talked about his ranches. I have ranches in Texas.
He's bought so many, they're just all connect now.
Maybe he sold a few off. I think we got 2 more little clips from Jimbo. Here's another Jimbo Fisher for you.
If I did that, you ought to say that's the dumbest human being. I don't want to be my coach. Okay.
I gotta love the way he's framing it. We've got 1 more left. Here's 1 more Jimbo Fisher.
We're gonna have special things. We're building special things. They're investing in the program. They're investing in everything we got. We're building a culture. We're not where we are.
And Shannon, I kind of get it. I mean, you can certainly make the argument over the years, LSU has been a more successful football brand in the SEC than Texas A&M. But the indications are that they're going to have a great recruiting class. And it sounds like, they certainly rolled up the Brinks truck to pay Jimbo Fisher. So it would seem that he's got the assets he needs to succeed at Texas A&M.
It's a pretty cush life to be Jimbo Fisher at Texas A&M right now. And I love the passion. It almost seems forced, like he's had all these things locked and loaded, ready to go, in a way that should he land anywhere, I don't care if it's LSU or US, if he goes anywhere, these will come back to bite him at some point. But I agree with him in that he would be really dumb to leave A&M to go do this LSU gig, especially at this time.
And again, I've always said this, and I am a Longhorn fan, and I've been a Longhorn fan since I was a kid. Football is better in Texas. And now that the Longhorns are headed to the SEC, when Texas and Texas A&M are good, as much as I'm a Longhorns fan, it's like I don't sweat the Aggies, and I want them to be, and I want Jimbo Fisher to be successful, and I want Texas versus Texas A&M in the SEC to be a huge, huge game, and I want the winner to, be the likely team headed to the SEC championship game once Texas is in the SEC.
I mean, wouldn't that be something? Because obviously when they played, it didn't have that championship vibe to it. Like it's a great rivalry game, but I don't know in most years when it was the last game of the regular season, Texas versus Texas A&M, that it was Big 12 championship on the line kind of feelings. I'd have to go back to the records and check, but that's just my brain's way of thinking back on those games that I attended. If we get this in the future, and both teams have performed well throughout the regular season, and we're able to once again have Thanksgiving with this game, with this rivalry, and then on top of it, it means a shot at going to the SEC title game and then potentially maybe even having playoff implications, raising the bar right there.
Yeah, and add to that what is expected to be one way or another more teams in a playoff, whether it's an 8-team, a 12-team, or a 16. So yeah, there's and you got to believe the SEC is going to, if things are the way they are now, provide most of the teams that are going to that college football playoff. We will talk more college football. One of the Dallas Cowboys' major assistants is now being rumored to be on the short list of my alma mater, USC's coaching search. We'll tell you who that is, and we'll talk NFL and a whole lot more. She is Shannon Salty Sweeney, the boss man Brian Gann, making the show go this morning. I'm Chris. Thanks for hanging out with us till 9 on the Chris Duel Show. Woo! Thanks for that. I know we kind of did that on the fly. I appreciate it.
No, I thought that worked out good.
Yeah, those were great sound bites.
They were short, but I actually kind of like the way you played them in and out. It actually worked pretty well.
Good, yeah, and it gives you so much more of a flavor of what he sounded like as opposed to just reading them or reciting them. Jason, where'd you get that rumor? Jason Paniagua, and let me put that on the screen here because the Facebook people might not see it because it's from YouTube. Jason writes, did you hear about the NFL expansion rumor to add 4 teams to make it easier for an 18-game schedule? San Antonio, St. Louis, London, and one other city were rumored to be the contenders. I would love that. I haven't heard that, Jason. And of course, as we know, the belief out there is that Jerry Jones does not want San Antonio to be in any kind of a mix like that. I would love it if it were true. Anthony Huerta saying Toronto is the other. And, you know, we've talked about that on this show. You know, if you combined Austin and San Antonio, you know, and built the stadium somewhere in between both cities, that would be a thought. They're saying, I'm searching this on Twitter. Pro Football Talk is saying San Diego. You know, those two cities that lost their franchises, San Diego and St. Louis, would probably be in the mix. Yeah, Jason, you sent me that photo, and I found that on Twitter, but I found it from, you know, somebody who tweets called North Dallas 40 Los Angeles Rams. I know you've got that S in the upper right-hand corner. I don't know what logo that is. But yeah, I do see a lot of people talking about that story on Twitter.
All right, 1 minute.
Thank you. See, Shannon, we'll hit the things. Yeah, that's going to be interesting. Yeah, what we typically do in that case is while Bill is wrapping it, I pre-record one at about 3 to 5 minutes. So yeah, so that way we're still, yeah, it'll work out. Okay, so typical, let's see, 9:30, probably game over, probably like 10 till 12, typically, if there's not overtime. And then, you know, by the time Bill's done, yeah, probably I would say maybe 12:05, 12:10. I don't think so. I'll check their schedule. That's a good question.
let's get back to the Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney. Find Chris and Salty on Twitter at Chris Duel and at Shannon B. Sweeney.
And welcome back on this Taco Tuesday, November 16th. Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney on a Spurs game night as the Spurs are in Los Angeles to take on the Clippers. Catch that game on 1200 WOAI tonight with the voice of the San Antonio Spurs, Bill Schoening. And Shannon, that's a 9:30 tip, which really means 9:40 typically from Staples Center. So pregame at 9 on 1200 WOAI and the Spurs Radio Network. Now, I will be here with you tomorrow morning. Of course, I may need a few extra gallons of coffee because that game's going to go late. But I got to remember to text Bill Schoening today because that might be just cruel and unusual punishment for Bill, who, as you know, lives in the Austin area. So he may or may not want to do his regular Wednesday. He's usually with us Wednesdays at 8:05.
Right.
I may give him the option to defer that to Thursday or Friday if he wants.
Okay.
Which I think would be.
I mean, that's fair, I guess.
Yeah, we try to be fair. So
I mean,
anyway.
we'll hold it against him.
No. So I'm hoping the Spurs. You mentioned Kawhi Leonard is out. He won't play.
Yep.
Obviously, he's out for much of the bulk of this season with his injury issues. But hopefully the Spurs, who have played in a lot of tight games throughout this season, will be able to get a road win against the LA Clippers tonight. We shall see. All right. I did mention this, and I heard this yesterday from USC sources. They are interested in one Dan Quinn, the defensive coordinator of the Dallas Cowboys, who obviously, as defensive coordinator, had his greatest game, the Cowboys' greatest defensive game of the year Sunday in the 43-3 stomping of the Atlanta Falcons. But I always think about this, and we've heard 2 weeks ago the rumor that Carson Palmer, former USC quarterback, went on the Dan Patrick Show, which follows us, which is a national show, and he brought up, and I think it's what USC is doing, they're casting a wide net, but he brought up Mike Tomlin of the Pittsburgh Steelers, to which Mike Tomlin, I think we played his audio when he refuted that rather entertainingly in a press conference. So I think a lot of times you hear this, and I think it's wishful thinking on the part of, in this case, USC. But what I always get to, Shannon, as great of a coach as Dan Quinn may be, what kind of recruiting history does he have? I mean, obviously you could have said this about Pete Carroll when he left. In fact, when USC got Pete Carroll initially as a Trojan alum, I was not that excited about it, but things turned out really, really well in the Pete Carroll era at USC. But generally, when you go after a pro coach, and if he doesn't have a recruiting history, you don't know what you're going to get. The guy might not be a good recruiter.
Yeah. And like the timing is weird too, because Clay Helton probably should have been taken out at the end of last season. They didn't. They did it in the middle of this season. Dan Quinn, first year with the Dallas Cowboys, you probably had a better shot at getting him prior to him joining that team, especially now that they're having the success they're having. He's rebuilding his reputation. I'm sure he's, hurt on the inside still of just how everything went down with Atlanta. I mean, that it showed for sure on Sunday, especially he did get that game ball from Mike McCarthy after the game for that defensive spectacle that he and his crew put on. As a Cowboys fan, I don't want him to leave. I like the way they're playing right now.
Yeah.
I understand that typically a lot of good things come to an end, especially in the sports world. But I agree with you with the recruiting bit, and I don't see it. I know it's big and shiny, but after what he dealt with in Atlanta, does he really want to go and subject himself to that in USC, where I can only imagine the criticism is that much harsher when things aren't going as planned?
Yeah, criticism is harsh. I mean, obviously they're having a year, and I think a very similar record to that of the Texas Longhorns, and in both of those fan bases, expectations are high, but the word out of USC, which is similar to what we saw from Texas a year ago when they moved on from Tom Herman to Steve Sarkisian, is they want to bring in a guy to turn the program around and bring the program back to prominence. So theoretically, they want a big name, and they want a guy that they're now saying we're going to commit whatever assets we need to commit to get them there. But back to the Dallas Cowboys, Shannon, and you're right. If they continue to play well and go deep into the playoffs and who knows, maybe to the Super Bowl, which would make our dreams come true, especially the way this defense played against Atlanta. You and I have talked about, we've heard Kellen Moore is being rumored as a hot coaching commodity. Tony Romo himself, during one of the Cowboys games this year, when Kellen Moore was on the screen, said that guy is going to be a head coach next year in the NFL. If this defense now with Dan Quinn continues to play the way it played against Atlanta, people are going to be giving him another look for the NFL. Forget about college football. NFL head coaching openings, Dan Quinn's going to get a look. And you and I have talked about, of these three guys, head coach Mike McCarthy, Kellen Moore, the offensive coordinator, and Dan Quinn, the defensive coordinator, the guy who impresses me the least is Mike McCarthy. If whatever happens to the Cowboys this year, if Kellen Moore goes and gets a head coaching gig somewhere else, and if Dan Quinn gets a head coaching gig somewhere else, and of those three, we're left with Mike McCarthy, I am not going to be feeling good next year. Monkey butt. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So would I. Now, I got to go back to monkey butt. You've got me intrigued. I had not heard of a chafing powder called monkey butt. So that's the brand. The brand is monkey butt. If you go to a drugstore, you order up the monkey butt.
But they were giving out packet versions to the players. I'm curious to know how many players used it now too. If they're like, oh, thanks, early stocking stuffer. But whatever it was, I mean, if that's the kind of motivation we need, little fun gags and kind of poking fun at yourself for getting your ass kicked the week prior.
We might have to get Monkey Butt as a sponsor of the radio show. That could be, the show could be sponsored by Monkey Butt.
I'm sure the drops are already like forming for the Taylor show, as I said.
Right. Well, and you got to wonder now, because you brought up the monkey business at the Texas Longhorn football program with the pole assassin and the pet monkey. You got to wonder if monkey butt might be something to pass around the locker room at Texas. Maybe they could use a little monkey butt to kind of get them going against West Virginia. It seems to have worked for the Dallas Cowboys.
It might assist in some areas, but whatever's going on at Texas is much deeper than a red butt.
Yeah. Gosh, hopefully they get it going. You also had a story about the Minnesota Timberwolves fined for a summer party at A-Rod's Miami mansion. What is this all about?
So current rules, because of the times we are in, right? You can't have a ton of players gathering, especially outside of the season. They can't have official practices, so to speak, outside of the season, and they certainly can't have them when they do in a different location, given the circumstances we're in. Well, A-Rod, who became a minority owner of the Minnesota Timberwolves earlier this summer, I believe it was in July, had the team down for some team bonding at his mansion, but that included some practices that took place. And they said it went really well, that everyone got along, that everyone learned more about themselves, that they had some great practices. He was considering making this an annual thing. The NBA stepped in and said, I know you're new here, but no, sir. And here's a $250,000 fine for your organization for that taking place. Hope you enjoyed your party.
Wow.
Did none of the players know about this? None of them have been in the league long enough to be like, I don't think we can do this. Our organization but I guess it depends. Looking back on it, how great was the camaraderie that was formed? How great was the communication that was formed? Is it worth the $250,000 that organization has now been docked because of it?
Yeah, and it could be. You know, we said last week when the Green Bay Packers were fined $300,000, and obviously NFL teams make a lot more money than NBA teams. Certainly the Minnesota Timberwolves. The Packers make a lot more money than the Minnesota Timberwolves as an organization. But I said, and I believe it, that $300,000 is kind of a slap on the wrist for the Green Bay Packers. So you bring up a great point for the team to go to A-Rod's house. I mean, if you've got A-Rod as a co-owner and you can go to his mansion in Miami, that's a cool thing. That's a cool perk for your players. So maybe that's the cost of doing business. Maybe that's worth the $250K.
Yeah, and A-Rod being A-Rod is probably like, I'll pay for it. It's fine.
Yeah, I got that in my wallet. I got that in a sock.
Could you take cash or credit? You guys do checks here?
What is the A-Rod? Now, he was with Jennifer Lopez, and you know these things better than I do. What is the current A-Rod romantic status? Who is his? Does he have a significant other that we should be aware of right now?
Not that I know of, but it is also interesting you bring that up because I am sitting here like he's probably just really lonely and was like, let me just bring some young guys in town to party in Miami over the
J-Lo's
summer.
gone. I got nothing to do.
J-Lo's gone. I've got this huge house all to myself. Let's do it.
Very funny. Yeah. And oh,
J-Lo's
by the way,
here. J-Lo is apparently, she and Ben Affleck, I think Ben is filming a movie.
Whoa.
So I don't think anyone's seen them. I don't think it's Austin proper, but supposedly, I don't know if they're still here, but that's been a thing.
That's very cool. That's very cool. So let's see if there's anything. Oh, and you also brought up, and we haven't cited it yet. And as we prepare to wrap here, it is National Fast Food Day today. Yeah. So it's not only Taco Tuesday, it's National Fast Food Day. So I guess you could celebrate both by what? Going to Taco Bell? You would kill both of those?
Yeah, 2 birds, 1 stone. I celebrated a little early last night with Hit Up Whataburger. Except I got there and the line was so long, and that Whataburger line in the drive-thru takes forever that I just sat in line, ordered on my phone curbside, pulled out of the line, pulled into a curbside spot, selected my curb spot number, and 5 minutes later it was out there, and I think the cars had moved maybe 2 vehicles.
So you scored. You made the right call.
I was like, I'm too smart for this.
You know who does drive-thrus? Chick-fil-A has it down. Oh, they've got like double drive-thrus, double line, and you'll see all these cars. You go, oh no way, I'm screwed. I'm not going to. And then you do it, and you're through that drive-through in about 3 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, it helps when the options are chicken or chicken.
Good
for
point.
Sure. But I do curbside for them too. They've got a great shout out to the Chick-fil-A app.
Woo,
works wonders.
Somebody else who does drive-thrus, well, I give them a shout. In-N-Out. Maybe that's because of their name, but a lot of times you'll see a big line at In-N-Out and you go, oh God, I'm not getting in that line, but they're quick. So I will just point that out.
I haven't had that experience here.
Okay.
P. Terry's, yes. In-N-Out, debatable.
So you've had bad, so you've been in a long line at a drive-through at In-N-Out and it did not go well for you, or you just don't go?
It wouldn't fine. It was just longer than expected for my.
Okay. Well, that's not good.
I just wanted a milkshake.
I'll have to report you to the In-N-Out police.
Girl just wanted a chocolate milkshake.
Milkshakes are good. Burgers are very, very good. Fries, not so much at In-N-Out. They got to work on those fries.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
I usually just go for a burger. Same at P. Terry's. Just the burger, please. You want that a meal? No. Just a cheeseburger.
There you have it. Yeah, and I do that at In-N-Out. They go, I go, give me a double animal style. And an unsweet iced tea. Do you want fries with that? No. I don't want the fries. B, I don't really like the fries here. But I don't want to tell that to them. What's the kid at In-N-Out going to do about that? So I don't.
Right.
I keep that
Can I
to
speak
myself.
to your manager?
Right.
Don't be that guy.
In-N-Out's kind of doing okay. So, all right, Spurs in action tonight against the Los Angeles Clippers. We'll talk a little Spurs tomorrow as well. We will keep an eye on all things NFL, all things college football as well. Ooh, the college football rankings in the college football playoff poll will drop tonight. I believe 7:00-ish tonight. So we'll know that tomorrow as well, Shannon.
They're not going to do it weird like they did last week, are they? In between.
No, because there's no doubleheader basketball game to
you can
put
sit
it in
through
between.
the regular long show that you don't want to sit through to begin.
Exactly. So that's why I'll be multitasking, waiting to hear the news. Shannon, outstanding as always. Let's do it again in 21 hours.
Let's do it.
Woo! Our thanks to Brian Gann, the boss man, multitasking, making the show go. We appreciate that as well. Don't forget, throughout the day, throughout the morning, throughout the day, 20 after the hour, it is the Grand in Your Hand cash contest. Your chance to win $1,000 all the way until 9:20 tonight, and all week long, every weekday, we do that as well. For Shannon Salty Sweeney, for Brian Gann, thanks for hanging out with us. We will see you in 21 hours. I will see you on the radio tonight on the Spurs broadcast, pregame at 9 on 1200 WOAI and the Spurs Radio Network. Taco Tuesday. Adios, amigos. See you tomorrow. Woo! Woo! All right, y'all. Pablo Perez, Tom Cunanan, Jason Paniagua, Jerome Sosa, good morning. I wrote that, and when I write from here, it like pops it out on multiple accounts, which is weird. All right, y'all. I am out of here. Have yourself a great Taco Tuesday. I will be very tired tomorrow. This Spurs game, I'm getting out of here after midnight tonight. Woo! Woo! Go Spurs. But if they win, I'll feel better. If they lose, and then I'm sleep deprived, I'll be cranky like Zach Greinke tomorrow. None of us want that. See y'all later.